There are a lot of strategies, a lot of beliefs, and a lot of hope strategies, hoping that it'll just work out, that we see in the marketplace every day. At the Financial Enhancement Group, we have a trademarked process. It's called the Family Focus Process. It has 6 parts to it. The first one is helping you establish your financial vision. It's very concise about where it is you are today and where it is you want to go. And then we break into 5 areas. Remember what James Clear has told us. Success is never dependent upon one thing, but failure can be. Any one of the 5 you get wrong, bad things can happen. So we will sit down and help you with your life after work, your retirement strategy. Number 2 is the annual, it does need to be done annually, tax planning. 3rd is the investment playbook that we send you information on weekly. 4th is life happens, the good, the bad, and ugly of life that we have checklists out the wazoo to help you with. And last but not least is the legacy plan. How do we take what we have and transfer it to the next generation? Get signed up for a Next Steps meeting at yourlifeafterwork.com or call us at 800-928-4001. Walk through the 5 critical elements, our trademark process, the family focus process. We look forward to sharing that with you. We promise you will leave with great information. Hi, I'm Joe Clark. Welcome back to Your Retirement Playbook. I hope you're having an outstanding day. We've been talking about, should I tell my parents? Well, the question is not if, it's a matter of when, like in most things. And do you really want to pay the price of pain today or the price of regret later on? That's really what it comes down to. This isn't so much about should you tell your parents or should you tell your kids. I wish there were conversations that we had at every dinner table, but that's just me dreaming. I don't even have them at my own dinner table as often as I would like. Kind of gets to be frustrating when you know things and you know you can help people and they don't ask. But it is where life comes into play. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking the time the last 25 years of my life to listen to this radio show, this podcast. If you're new to it, the YouTube channel, Your Retirement Playbook, or consider this program. And while you're there, if you're watching us on video, please subscribe. There's the artificial intelligence that YouTube uses that will help on our distribution to get it out. You'd be doing me a big favor if you could go and subscribe and get that in. And you know, sometimes when I have my whiteboard behind me, the videos are very, very helpful to illustrate stuff like tax planning. So here's the question for this segment is, where should you invest extra cash today? And you know, people are asking me that question based on where we are in the marketplace. Do I think the market's high, low, in between? What do I expect to have happen? I shared with you in the show last week that fear and greed are the 2 emotions that drive the market. The third one, though, that I think that get people into trouble is that of expectation, expecting one thing to happen, because odds are, whatever you expect, something else is going to happen, right? I put 50 economists into a room and I ask them a question, what their expectation is. I'm going to get 52 different answers because some of them aren't even sure themselves, right? They come up with different things. So these are things that I want to be certain of. And that's why we're so driven by checklists at the Financial Enhancement Group in terms of how to think things through. So when somebody talks about having an extra dollar, that means they're taking that dollar and they're making a very hard decision. Because remember, everything in life is a choice, right? You always need to keep that in mind. Every dollar that you have, you're making a decision to spend it today, right? Or to save it for later. So in this case, saving is the pain for today, and not saving it is the regret that you'll have later on if you haven't saved enough in another place. Right, so that's where that pain and regret come into play. So I've got an extra dollar. What funnel or filter will I run this through to make a decision? You can raise your hand, I just can't see you. The answer, of course, is, are you in the accumulation phase, the preservation phase, or the distribution phase? That's where I would always start. And as you recall, if you're younger, if you're in the accumulation phase, I'm going to tell you to save the right percentage of your income. The older you are, the higher that percentage needs to be, by the way. And secondly is to build tax diversification. So I'm going to spend the rest of our time on this segment talking about what tax diversification really means. There's 3 different primary areas of tax diversification. So if we think about investing, you've got stocks, bonds, and cash, right? They all act differently. They do different things. So do taxable accounts, IRA accounts, and Roth accounts, right? So those are the three that you have in tax diversification: taxable, tax deferred, tax free. Taxable means you're going to get money today and you're going to pay taxes off of the growth of it today. So if you have a capital gain that you recognize, that means you bought a stock, it went up, you sold it, you've got to pay taxes today. You bought a stock, it went up in value, you did nothing, you don't pay any taxes. You bought a stock, it declared a dividend, you're going to pay taxes today along the way. And so you're building what's called basis inside of that taxable scenario. Good news is, anytime you want that money, you can get it. Bad news is the tax treatment is different. Interest, like you get at a bank, is taxable at your marginal rate. So think about those stair steps. It's going to be on the highest step you happen to be on. If it's a qualified dividend because a company distributed a dividend this year, and it's a qualified dividend, meaning it's a U.S.-based company, then you're going to get that money. There's some other rules. That's the big dog. You're going to get that money, and it's treated preferentially, meaning it's taxed at the same rate a long-term capital gain would be, meaning that we had access to the money, we sold the stock, we made, and whether you made a withdrawal, by the way, or not, doesn't matter. That confuses people. If you sold a stock and left the money in the account and bought another stock or another fund or any other investment, if you sold the stock, the tax implication is still there. That's what happens inside of mutual funds with phantom capital gains tax. But again, that's another story, right? So that's what happens with that taxable account. Why do you want to have money that's taxable? I don't know. Your kid's going to get married? Are you going to need to buy a new car? Are you going to make an investment in real estate that you want to use, a lake place, a second home? What if the car breaks down? What if you need to replace the roof? That's the kind of the stuff that you have for taxable money. Before 59 and a half, and I think I talked a few weeks ago about not letting the IRS put us in a box, right? 59 and a half, 70, 72, soon to be 75 apparently, age 67 for Social Security. There's boxes that they put us in. I don't want us in a box. I don't ever like being there. So I want all the tax diversification I can. It's why I own multiple tax structures, tax entities, an LLC, I own a C Corp, and I own an S Corp. Because the taxation of them are different. And so I have income shifted to them in different ways because I don't know in the future what the IRS is going to say in terms of taxation in any of those three entities. And I want to give myself the best opportunity for success that I possibly can. For you, for the person that doesn't own a company and doesn't want to get into that complexity, I get it. But you still need to understand these three. Taxable is the one we just went over. Access to that money anytime you want. Second is tax deferred. This is where you tell the IRS, okay, I don't want to pay taxes today. Now keep in mind, you're going to pay the taxes on the Social Security today, whether you like it or not, right? So that 7.5%, 7.65%, if you're, unless you're self-employed, then you get to pay it both ways, is going to go out the door. Whether that's at work or not, doesn't matter. You're paying the Social Security tax. But the rest of that money, you can put in your 401k or a 403b, or a tax-deferred IRA, a tax-deferred entity. And what you've said is you or someone else, because we all die, you or someone else will pay the taxes when that money is received. The only way out of that is to leave the money to a charity or use a qualified charitable distribution, a QCD, once you reach age 70 or later. But in the meantime, while you have that IRA, it's growing tax deferred. So you're not getting a 1099. You're not paying any taxes. The downside is you can't use the money, right? If you need to pull the money out of the IRA, there's only a few things you can do. There is a one-time every 12 months. Notice I did not say calendar year. Every 12 months, you have the ability to do if you have 7 IRAs, that's perfectly legal, but you can do one 60-day rollover where you pull the money out, you got to put the money back in 60 days. We strongly discourage this. You can't do it with each of the 7. It has to be out, if you do it out of one IRA, you're out, the clock's on, 12 months. They have computers. Please be careful. Just don't do it unless you have to. Secondly, you can do a 72T where you can take money out with substantial equal periodic payments unchanged for the greater of 5 years or 59 and a half. Again, you've got restrictions. You can't use the money, but you've got tax deferred money that is continuing to grow. You cannot touch the money without a 10% federal penalty, without death or disability, until you reach age 59 and a half or a change to the tax code. I always say that because those changes may occur. Remember, all tax policy is social policy, so it is possible that something like that gets changed somewhere inside of the future. But you could use a 72T. Other than that, you can't touch it before 59 and a half. And here's the kicker. You have to. That taxable account, there is no have tos. At 72, you have to begin, under the current code, begin to take a required minimum distribution out of all IRAs, period. Now, if you happen to have used a 401k, and you can actually continue to, and assuming you don't own more than 5% of the company, you can continue to leave the money inside of the 401k, not the IRA, not take a required minimum distribution out of the 401k as long as you're working. But the year you retire, voila, you will have required minimum distributions that you should have to take. Then the other option is tax-free money. That is the Roth IRA. You have to qualify for a Roth IRA based on income. So if your income's too high, you cannot put the money inside of a Roth. But remember, there are two C's to a Roth. There's contributions and there's conversions. A contribution is I put money in the Roth IRA because I had earned income, doesn't matter what age I am, I had earned income, and I'm below a certain threshold in terms of AGI. Actually, it's modified adjusted gross income in this case. And then I have the ability to be able to contribute. By the way, MAGI is always greater than adjusted gross income. So if they're the same, great. If not, it will be bigger. So you do need to know the modified amount that just adds some income back in that would not normally show up in an adjusted gross income. But inside of the Roth IRA, you're limited to that for a contribution. For a conversion, you can be any age, at any tax rate, and any income level. And that's where you take money from an existing IRA or Roth and you convert it into a Roth 401k or a Roth 403b or a Roth IRA. Contribution is one thing, conversion is another. Contribution, you have to have earned income below a certain threshold. Contribution or conversion, no age limit, no income limit. The only thing that has to happen is you have money that's in a tax deferred account. And you have to be able to then convert it to the Roth. So every year we do what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. That's my baby. Don't get all the credit for it, but kind of created that strategy in one of the Ed Slott meetings where we take the money outside of the IRA and convert it, put it inside of a Roth IRA from a non-tax deferred IRA. A lot of people that have 401ks don't qualify to do a deductible IRA. It's still deferred, therefore it qualifies to do the conversion. That's really what a backdoor Roth IRA is, something that you may want to consider. If you go to yourlifeafterwork.com, get signed up for a Next Steps meeting. We'll walk you through all of this, and you don't have to worry about where the next dollar should go. We'll tell you in which of those tax diversified areas it needs to go to best give you the opportunity to enjoy your life after work. That's really what it's all about. yourlifeafterwork.com. We will all pay a price. There's no way around it. We have to make hard decisions. What do I do with the next dollar that I get? Do I spend it or do I save it? If I spend it, I'm going to enjoy it today, hopefully, but I may regret at retirement time not having it. If I save it, I got to tell my kids no today or my spouse no today or deny myself today, but I'm probably going to have a better future for doing it. Once I've made that decision, where do I save it? Is it taxable, tax deferred, tax free? So many decisions have to be made, and life is like a Cheesecake Factory menu. If you've not been there, I think it's 228 items that are on the menu. It's beautiful. And we got all of these choices and pretty pictures, and that's what money really is. You've got all of these options, all of these choices you get to make. And what I have learned in 35 years as a certified financial planner, an adjunct professor at Purdue University where I taught financial planning and dealing with over 2,000 families, here's what I've learned. Everybody loves choices. And nobody likes decisions. Everything's good with that menu until the waiter walks up or the waitress walks up, says, "Mr. Clark, what would you like?" Oh my goodness, I have to narrow it down. Now I've got to take the choices and make a decision, and that's when it gets tough. And that's why you may need a fiduciary. Go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get one.